Hi, sorry this isn't the video I promised, but I wanted to get this video out in time for the holiday season. A while back, the Try Guys tried to knit Secret Santa gifts for each other. They had never knit before and were figuring it out as they went, so I wanted to show you my spin on their present. Now, let's say you procrastinated so much that you didn't even know how to knit. It's easy, don't worry. I'll link some videos in the description that helped me out, but all you have to do is know how to cast on, to knit in garter stitch, which is just the knit stitch over and over, and then cast off. And that's really all you need for these gifts. To start out with, let's knit the hat Keith made for Ned's baby Wes. I'm not going to go into super detail for this one because I made it the same way as this full-size hat I knit following the Snuggleries flat hat tutorial, but as explained by Keith.
A long sheet, and then I'm going to wrap it around and like sort of seam it up.
So that's what I did. I cast on 16 stitches and knit that for about 50 rows, seaming up the edges and the brim. I'll link that tutorial if you want a more detailed explanation. To make the pom-pom, I followed a sheep and stitches video, which will also be linked below, and here's the final result. For the tea koozie Ned knit Zach, I actually decided to knit this little planter instead. I didn't do the alternating knits and purls that he did, but I did add buttons to make it removable, so I'll show you how to do that.
Can that not come off the mug?
What?
Did you knit it on the mug?
Yeah.
For my first row, I cast on 9 stitches and knit that across and garter stitch for 40 rows. On the 41st row, I split my stitches into groups of 3. So I go to knit the first 3 as normal. Then for the first stitch of the bind off, I knit that as normal. Knit the following stitch as well, and pull the first stitch on my right needle above the second. Do that twice more and we are done with the bind off in the middle. Knit the remaining stitches as normal before transferring onto a safety pin to hold the last 3 stitches while we work on the first set. Then I knit that row of 3 as normal until I had a bit of overlap with the start of the tea koozie. Make sure you're stretching your work as you put it around your mug to measure. After I was done with one side of the extension, I cast off and moved on to the stitches that I had previously put on hold. I just slipped them off the safety pin and onto my needles. Then I began knitting until it matched the length of the other one. I continued knitting each of these sides up 19 rows before casting off. To make it removable, I added some buttons, and even though I didn't make buttonholes, I could wedge them in between the knitting of the flaps to fasten them on. Don't be lazy like me though, because I used super glue instead of thread to attach these buttons, and I got glue all over my hands. Either way, this planter turned out really cute, and it's ready to grow some baby corn. Now I'm knitting Zach's bow tie for Eugene, and as he said it himself,
really all you need to do to make a bow tie is a strip.
Great.
So that's honestly what I did. I casted on 16 stitches and did the garter stitch for 20 rows before casting off on the 21st row. I made a small strip with 4 stitches cast on, knit that for 6 rows, and bind it off for the 7th. Using that smaller strip, I gathered the bow in the middle and fastened it to the back. You can also add a longer strip to act as a necktie with a button, but Zach didn't and I'm too lazy to bother. Honestly, I think it's really sweet how much effort Zach put into his gift, so I'm very disappointed Eugene didn't wear it to the Met Gala. Next is Eugene's
Dick stocking
for Keith. Eugene used 2 types of yarn, but I won't because
Just makes it a little more complicated.
I'll just stick with this one.
for my first row I cast on 20 stitches and knit that in a garter stitch for 12 more rows, but you can customize it to whatever length you need. I can't believe I'm actually doing a tutorial on this. For my 13th row I did a knit bind off. I had just enough of a tail left to make the crotch part, so I used my needle to weave that tail from the side to the bottom of my
crochet crotch.
I used some more scrap yarn of a different color because I ran out of the blue. I cut off a piece that fit around my waist, used a crochet hook to attach and tie it to both the hip points. Last step was to slap a bow on the astle and try it on. Also, I thought I would wrap it up by going over what they did wrong, but honestly I don't know how they managed to do this, so that's it. Good luck with all your holiday knits, happy holidays, and thanks for watching.